What's good, YouTube? It's your boy KingSupreme. Back in the video, we got Sowell, the hidden truth behind the end of slavery. Now, if you're new here, welcome to the channel, homies. Just be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you want to see more bangers from your boy. You feel me? Because the grind never stops. But today we got some more of that boy Sowell, bro. But oh my gosh, I just had to get to some more of this dude Sowell, bro. We got into, the one video was what they don't teach you, what they never taught you in school about slavery, bro. And that video literally, that changed my whole perspective on everything, bro. I'm telling you, that changed my whole perspective on everything, dog. And I just had to get to more. I saw y'all comments. Thank y'all for all the support I love on that video. Really, I love the different, what y'all was saying in the comments. I read a lot of the comments, most of the comments, bro, and I really resonated a lot with what y'all said, bro. And I appreciate y'all for the support on that video, and I saw a lot of different suggestions that y'all wanted me to get some more Sowell. So we got this one today, bro. But yo, I got a lot of Sowell videos on deck, bro. I saw how much I wanted it. I was like, more Sowell, more Sowell. Get to the deeper meaning, get to the truth, bro. I was like, you know what? Y'all right. Yeah, because I got a lot more on deck, bro. So be sure to keep flooding the comments down below. Keep spamming the comments down below of what videos I want to see next. I got a lot on deck, as I said, bro. But I know there's still a lot more I need to get to. But y'all, hey, all my video uploads I get from y'all in the comments, y'all comment suggestions, so I really appreciate that. So be sure to keep flooding the comments down below with different video ideas and all that, bro, because I will get to all of it. I read all comments, dog. So you keep on letting me know what y'all want to see next. So we got this one right here, Sowell, and yeah, we got a lot more in store. So y'all know the deal is road to 50K, so you know the grind doesn't stop. So be sure to turn on those post notifications because these videos are continuously be posted. And yeah, bro, but we need to take a deep breath because this one, y'all said this one was crazy too, so let's get straight into this one, dog. That first video was so informative. It was so, just the knowledge I was gaining, bro, it was so transformative to me. It really was. So we're gonna see how this video is. And yeah, thank y'all for the support. Thank y'all for the love. Let's get straight into this one, the hidden truth behind the end of slavery. Y'all ready?
Slavery was destroyed within the United States at staggering costs in blood and treasure. But the struggle was over within a few ghastly years of warfare. Nevertheless, the Civil War was the bloodiest war ever fought in the Western Hemisphere, and more Americans were killed in that war than in any other war in the country's history. But this was a highly atypical, indeed unique, way to end slavery. In most of the rest of the world, unremitting efforts to destroy the institution of slavery went on for more than a century, on 1,000 shifting fronts, and in the face of determined and ingenious efforts to continue the trade in human beings. Within the British Empire, the abolition of slavery was accompanied by the payment of compensation to slave owners for what was legally the confiscation of their property.
Wow. The abolition of slavery was meant to have a compensation to slave owners because that was legally their property. Dang, bro, that's messed up. So they compensated the owners. Dang, that's crazy, dog. I'm telling you about this, the dude, the gems he's spitting, bro, like it was said, it was in the expert of this, like the gems he's spitting, bro, like a lot of people still don't know about this. And y'all said, a lot of y'all in the comments, y'all knew about this, y'all already knew about this, so, but still I know there's a lot of people who don't, bro, and
Slavery was accompanied by the payment of compensation to slave owners for what was legally the confiscation of their property. This cost the British government £20 million, a huge sum in the 19th century, about 5% of the nation's annual output.
Damn.
A similar plan to have the federal government of the United States buy up the slaves and then set them free was proposed in Congress, but was never implemented. The costs of emancipating the millions of slaves in the United States would have been more than half the annual national output, but still less than the economic costs of the Civil War. Quite aside from the cost in blood and lives, and a legacy of lasting bitterness in the South, growing out of its defeat and the widespread destruction it suffered during that conflict. While the British could simply abolish slavery in their Western Hemisphere colonies, they faced a more daunting and longer-lasting task of patrolling the Atlantic off the coast of Africa, in order to prevent slave ships of various nationalities from continuing to supply slaves illegally. Even during the Napoleonic Wars, Britain continued to keep some of its warships on patrol off West Africa. Moreover, such patrols likewise tried to interdict the shipments of slaves from East Africa through the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf. Brazil capitulated to British demands that it end its slave trade after being publicly humiliated by British warships that seized and destroyed slave ships within Brazil's own waters.
Ooh.
In 1870,
So the British were seizing Brazil slave ships. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Because y'all said in the comments, I kept on seeing 12. I think it's what y'all said. Y'all said the America and the British were the ones who completely, got rid of it. Got rid of slavery. If I'm correct, I saw that a few times. I know for sure I saw them a few times in the comments. But let me know if that's the right. Because he just said the British are the ones who still that there were still slaves in Brazil. They're the ones that got rid of those.
Brazil capitulated to British demands that it end its slave trade after being publicly humiliated by British warships that seized and destroyed slave ships within Brazil's own waters. In 1873, 2 British cruisers appeared off the coast of Zanzibar and threatened to blockade the island unless the slave market there shut down.
It
was shut down.
The British were real.
No state residents. If you
The British were the one on top of things, huh?
House,
That's what it here like on this.
It would be hard to think of any other crusade pursued so relentlessly for so long by any nation at such mounting costs without any economic or other tangible benefit to itself. These costs included bribes paid to Spain and Portugal to get their cooperation with the effort to stop the international slave trade, and the costs of maintaining naval patrols and of resettling freed slaves, not to mention dangerous frictions with France and the United States, among other countries. Captains of British warships who detained vessels suspected of carrying slaves were legally liable if those vessels turned out to have no slaves on board. The human costs were also large. The heavy drain, physical and mental, in keeping squadrons on the East African coast was reflected in the loss of 282 officers and men in the 10 years 1875 to 1885. And this did not include those invalidated home. Naval personnel, racked by fever, sunstroke, and dysentery, were forced to retire prematurely and live on a small pittance. The cost of upkeep of the squadron over the 20 years prior to 1890 was estimated at 4 million sterling, and this did not take into account the large amount of work imposed on consular and judicial staff at Zanzibar in trying cases and dealing with reports, etc.
Dang.
Even so, the results were slow in coming. More streamlined slave ships were designed in hopes of being able to outrun the ships of the Royal Navy in the Atlantic.
Bruh,
Nevertheless, the dogged persistence of the British eventually reduced.
Why can't they just stop? They said they kept on trying to streamline and make new ships to try to undermine, and the British were still on top of things, bruh. What it seems like I'm getting from this, bruh, is the British were the ones who's like, bruh, y'all need to quit with that shit. Like, the British were the ones who was like, bruh, y'all tripping, bro. Y'all keep, like, we're trying to stop this shit. This inhumane, this is not good for nobody, bro. This is bad. Y'all not see how bad this is, what we're doing. So, like, okay, let's destroy all these ships. Let's get all these, let's stop the trade. Let's stop it. But they kept on trying. They kept on trying. In any way possible, they kept on trying. And the British were like, bruh, chill out. We not having that. So if we see that y'all still trying to be up to something, we gonna go over there and we gonna destroy it. So from what it seems like here, the British, they real. I didn't realize this to this extent that the British were the ones that was really on top of things. Like, bruh, quit. Y'all need to stop. For real. This information we're gathering, all of this, bruh, it's so next level, bruh. Like, this is the information that they need to be teaching in schools, but they don't teach us nothing, bruh. None of that, bruh. Some of y'all even said they taught some of this in y'all schools, but me? But it was more like, it was like 90s type of stuff. But me? None of that, bro. None of that, dog. So this the stuff needs to be heard right here, y'all.
Shipment of slaves across the Atlantic and across the waters of the Islamic world. Although the French flag was for many years widely used as protection from the boarding of ships on the high seas by the British Navy, even by slave traders who were neither French nor authorized to fly the French flag. Eventually, France itself turned against slavery, outlawed the institution, and sent some of its own warships to patrol the Atlantic off the coast of Africa to intercept and deter the shipment of slaves to the Western Hemisphere.
There you go, France.
The American flag was likewise so used, and the United States, like France, eventually turned against the slave trade and sent warships to join the Atlantic patrols to interdict slave shipments.
America, France, British. That's why they all in the, what's the call? What do they call it? The, what's the thing? The group? You know what I mean? The group nowadays, we got like America, British, and all them in it. That's why they're all still part of the group now. They're the ones who was first on the tip, like, y'all need to stop this. So America, Britain, France, all of them, bruh. They was on top of things. I mess with that.
Although by 1860, the Atlantic slave trade had been effectively stopped, the slave trade from East Africa across the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf took longer to be reduced significantly. Off the east coast of Africa, smaller Arab vessels called dhows hugged the coastlines in waters too shallow for the British warships to enter. One British commodore estimated that he captured one dhow for every 8 that escaped. Nevertheless, during the period from 1866 to 1869, 129 slave vessels were captured and 3,380 slaves were freed. When the threat of being boarded seemed imminent, the Arabs would throw slaves overboard to drown, rather than have them be found on board, which could lead to British seizure of the vessel and punishment of those who manned it. The worst that could befall the slaves was when the slaver was overhauled by a British cruiser, and they might then be flung overboard to dispose of all evidence. Devereux mentions a case where the Arabs, when pursued by an English cruiser, cut the throats of 24 slaves and threw them overboard.
So people have no morals, bro. No morals nowhere, bro. Just to save their own skin, they would just throw them overboard so they didn't have no evidence. Your own people. Like I saw in the comments, and I saw a very factual comment, bro. It's not about, oh, my people, our people. We're all one, bro. So they were literally throwing their own people overboard just to save their own skin. How fucked up can you get? Fuck, man. People are so fucked up, bro. Still, nowadays, but come on now, this is just sickening. So sickening.
Holm also states that Arabs would not hesitate to knock slaves on the head and throw them overboard to avoid capture. Because there were only a few naval ships available to cover a vast expanse of water in this region, British warships would often launch smaller boats to engage the Arab slave dhows.
The British were
in these cases, as one study put it, the slave traffickers frequently did not hesitate to attack boat crews in defense of their profits. Battles between the Arabs' vessels and the smaller British craft were especially likely when the larger ships that launched them were too far away to reach the scene in time to join the battle. In other cases, the Arabs fled even from the smaller British vessels. An episode in 1866 was typical. On 26 April 1866, the Penguin set out after a dhow and fired several shots in an effort to make the crew come to. When the dhow failed to lower its sail, Gartorth felt certain that she was a slaver and ceased firing for the sake of the slaves on board. However, he managed to close with the dhow, which then made for the rocks through a heavy surf. By the time the ship's boats could be lowered to follow, the Arab crew had fled, but the pounding surf made any attempt by the slavers to salvage the human cargo too dangerous. To their horror, the boat crew found that they too could not reach the dhow, which was rapidly filling with water, drowning the slaves. The boat officer decided that he could not risk coming in close to the dhow, but several of the crewmen of the cutter recklessly dived in and swam through the surf to the dhow. In a remarkable display of courage, the sailors managed to bring 28 of the slaves back to the boat. But the dhow appeared to have had more than 200 slaves on board, and most died in the pounding waves. In another episode, the Arabs' ruthlessness toward the slaves was further revealed.
The Arabs were just gosh, they were just ruthless, man.
His cutter captured a dhow with 156 slaves on board. Many were found to be in the final stages of starvation and dysentery. One woman was brought out of the dhow with a month-old infant in her arms. The baby's forehead was crushed, and when she was asked how the injury had happened, she explained to the ship's interpreter that as the boat came alongside, the baby began to cry. One of the dowmen, fearing that the sailors would hear the cries, picked up a stone and crushed the child's head. This was not a unique act. British missionary and explorer David Livingstone related a similar incident.
Did that to keep them quiet. How sick can you get? Bruh. This is why I don't want to tell you the truth, bruh. The truth of how sickening it was. Even after all the people's efforts just to try to, just the British, the French, the Americans, not that they all didn't, you know what I'm saying? But they they turned a new leaf, like, you know what, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this. The Arabs and all of them, they were still like so keen on just keeping them and doing these horrible things. Like, you can't make this shit up, bro.
And one woman, who was unable to carry both her load and young child, had the child taken from her and saw its brains dashed out on a stone. Dr. Livingstone also reported having nightmares for weeks after encountering Arab slave traders and their victims. Not only was this Christian missionary shocked by the brutality of the Arab slave traders, so was Muhammad Ali, the ruler of Egypt, who was a battle-hardened military commander. None of this means that the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade should be ignored, downplayed, or excused, nor have they been. A vast literature has detailed the vile conditions under which slaves from Africa lived and died during their voyages to the Western Hemisphere. But the much less publicized slave trade to the Islamic countries had even higher mortality rates en route, as well as involving larger numbers of people over the centuries, even though the Atlantic slave trade had higher peaks while it lasted. By a variety of accounts, most of the slaves who were marched across the Sahara toward the Mediterranean died on the way. While these were mostly women and girls, the males faced a special danger: castration, to produce the eunuchs in demand as harem attendants in the Islamic world.
This is so hard
because
to
castration was forbidden by Islamic.
This is making my stomach sick, bro. Like, literally, I don't know how much more I can listen to. God.
Operation tended to be performed, usually crudely, in the hinterlands, before the slave caravans reached places within the effective control of the Ottoman Empire. The great majority of those operated on died as a result. But the price of eunuchs was so much higher than the price of other slaves that the practice was still profitable on net balance. The British Governor General of the Sudan, C.G. Gordon, estimated that between 1875 and 1879, from 80,000 to 100,000 slaves were exported through his region. General Gordon imposed the death penalty on those convicted of castrating slave men to market them as eunuchs. His attempt to stamp out slave trading in the Sudan cost him his own life as an opposing army, raised and led by Muhammad Mahad, defeated his troops at Khartoum in 1885 and killed Gordon, after which the slave trade flourished again. British control in the region was firmly reestablished in 1898 by the crushing victory of...
Another thing I saw in the comments, and it was actually really messed up. I saw someone say, like, well, I was like, because I had said the comment of, why can't they just communicate to each other, right? And I saw someone in the comments was like, yeah, but they couldn't communicate. So yeah, the only way they could communicate is if they went over there and they invaded them. I'm like, bruh, even if you can't physically know, there's ways you can go about it rather than violence, bruh. Like, even if you can't communicate with someone else, okay, there's ways you can do it to, just not be opposing, to work together. Like, the dude was in the comments, he was like, yeah, they couldn't speak the same language, so pretty much they had to be violent. Like, no, they didn't. Like, how can you live with yourself after all the people like, oh, we had to make a living, oh, it was just normal. No, it wasn't. That shit because of greed, because of selfishness, because of all this, bro. Y'all didn't have to do it. They wanted to, just to get a little more profit. How could they live with themselves after doing all the shit they did, bro? Come on now. Shit crazy as fuck, bro.
Troops led by Lord Kitchener at Omdurman, and including a young officer named Winston Churchill. On the issue of slavery, it was essentially Western civilization against the world. At the time, Western civilization had the power to prevail against all other civilizations. That is how and why slavery was destroyed as an institution in almost the whole world. But it did not happen all at once or even within a few decades. When the British finally stamped out slavery in Tanganyika in 1920, it was more than half a century after the Emancipation Proclamation in the United States, and vestiges of slavery still survived in parts of Africa into the 21st century.
So, what I'm getting from this is that, shout out to the Brit. I didn't realize how much the British were for the cause, to just abolish all this, get out of this. And even when it was abolished, like he said, it still went on for half a century, all of this, bruh. Like, bruh, you realize how fucked up this is and how hard this was for me to even listen to and hear, bruh? It's the truth, so we need to, this is the truth. This needs to be heard, this needs to be told, yes. But it's just so, it makes my stomach just churn, and gosh, like this is so unnecessary. Like, who cares? I would rather be broke. I'd rather have no exact money than to try to get one over on someone. I don't care if I needed it. No, I didn't. I could have done anything else. Selfish, you know, and probably like, oh yeah, it's easier said than like, no, yes, no, it isn't easier, because you should. If you have any sense of any percent of morals, you would realize this is the most fucked up thing you could even imagine. That's the video though. We needed to get to more, and we got to more today. I got a lot more on deck for y'all, so please keep letting me know in the comments what y'all want to see next, though. But this just makes my like, I'm so serious, bro. Like, I'm really passionate about this. I saw some people were saying, like, in the other video too, like I was being disingenuous. Like, how was I being disingenuous? Like, what are you talking about? Because I'm passionate about a subject I'm hearing for the first time. It's like, oh, you're overreacting over this. Am I? What have you done to spread the message of this? Come on now. Talking about being disingenuous. I'm sorry for my brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about everyone, because we're all brothers and sisters. Not skin color, not this, white, black, brown, whoever, whatever skin color. We all are brothers. We all are one. So I'm sick to my stomach. Don't ever say I'm being disingenuous about something. I'm for the cause, man. What's your problem, bro? Come on, man. That's the video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope this comes soon. Sorry, I'm just like I said, I'm very passionate about topics like this, about people who try to get over on other people for personal gain, this, that, and the third. Like, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't like that. I don't respect that. But that's it. More Thomas Sowell coming very, very soon. Y'all know the deal is road to 50K, so you know the grind doesn't stop. Make sure to hit that post notification button, because these videos will continuously be posted. And much love to y'all. Y'all the ones who give me the suggestions. So keep on spamming down below in the comments on what you want to see next. But appreciate y'all. Much love, and more to come very, very soon. Sad to see, man. This stuff is just, but it's history, bro. We need to learn about it. Like, comment, subscribe, share if you want to see more videos. It's your boy, KingSupreme. I'll catch y'all next time, homies.